We're here in front of Barrio Action Youth and Family Center, a site where youth at risk of involvement with the justice system come to take part in programming aimed at keeping them on the straight path to success. It's one of several community partner agencies supported by the Department of Youth Development, created by the Board of Supervisors in 2022 to support, divert, and rehabilitate justice-involved youth. It's part of a broader justice reform vision growing across the U.S. that's grounded in a care-first approach aimed at transforming lives and stemming inflow to detention halls and camps. Welcome to One-on-One, where we dive deeper into the issues of our time with the county leaders driving solutions. In this episode, we sit down with David Carroll, head of the Department of Youth Development, to learn more about the department's work and the societal impacts of not taking action. Today, we want to welcome David Carroll, the director of the Department of Youth Development. So this is a relatively new department established in 2022. Why was it established?
The Department of Youth Development was created in partnership with community to implement a more care-first approach towards working with young people involved in the juvenile justice system. For years, Los Angeles County was recognized as the largest incarcerator of young people. And community had been advocating and organizers had been pursuing a different approach for young people. In 2020, around the time of the George Floyd murder and the subsequent protests, the Board of Supervisors adopted an approach called Youth Justice Reimagined, which completely looked at a new way to work with young people that were potentially involved in the juvenile justice system. Everything from prevention through support for young people who had actually found themselves in custody in one of the camps or halls.
There you go.
At our core, what we're designed to do is keep young people out of the system, and for young people who are in the system, make sure that they don't go any further. There's no further depth. With a comprehensive care approach, one program or two programs was just not going to be enough. It needed the support of an entire department.
And we do know that kids that touch the justice system in one way or another are adversely affected in the long run. It's reported that even a first-time arrest doubles a young person's chances of dropping out of high school, and a first-time court appearance quadruples those chances. So what is your department doing in order to prevent kids touching the justice system to begin with?
What we seek to do is work with young people to keep them out of the system, as well as providing off-ramps for different touch points if the young people find themselves involved in justice system involvement. So at the earliest stage, the development, at the next stage, we work with young people who have come in contact with law enforcement to offer an alternative to arrest, and that is called diversion. And at the further off-ramp for young people who find themselves in carceral settings, we offer support while they're in those facilities, as well as reentry services once they return to the community.
So one of those programs that reaches a wide range of young people at risk of justice system involvement is the Youth Development Networks. What are these networks?
What those programs are designed to do are to identify young people that they already know, that they already work with, to make sure that they have all the resources they need to prevent them from coming into that negative contact with law enforcement, and support them if they do find themselves in those situations. The 5 Youth Development Network regions are the San Fernando Valley, Antelope Valley, Long Beach, South LA, and East Los Angeles. Today, we are at one of our 34 Youth Development Network providers serving the East LA area. This is Barrio Action, one of the members of our Youth Development Networks. And today, what they're doing is providing opportunities for young people who would have otherwise been at home. There's a lot of mentoring, college access, and a safe place to be for young people in the community.
This is a perfect example of meeting the youth where they're at, going into their neighborhoods or having a presence in their neighborhoods to make it accessible, right?
Absolutely. The best way to reach young people is through organizations that they already know and trust that are located in the communities in which they live.
Talk to us about your diversion program. Who is eligible and what does a Care First restorative program look like?
DYD works with 12 different diversion providers serving all of LA County. Law enforcement can refer young people to diversion for a variety of alleged offenses, everything from some of the more minor offenses through some of the felonies that are considered non-violent. Those diversion providers work with the young people for up to a year to address the root causes of what put them in that situation in the first place. We work with the family to try to create a stronger relationship with the young person. And we invite the person who was harmed, often called the victim, into that circle so that the young person can fully take accountability for what they did, understand how it affected other people, address those root causes, and emerge from that as a happier, healthier person.
Some have criticized it as saying that youth may feel that they're empowered to commit crime with little or no consequences. Why is Care First approach the right model, and share some data that backs that up?
What we know from our research is that only 5% of young people who go through diversion are reoffending. Only 5%.
Wow.
As opposed to 20 to 40% of young people that reoffend that don't go through diversion programs. We know that the reduction in recidivism is keeping young people out of the system and keeping our communities safe. Conversely, we know that the other approaches don't work, right? We've got decades of data to show that over-policing, over-arresting doesn't work. If we give these programs the opportunities to grow, right, and to really show the community how well they can work. We just finished an independent evaluation of that program, and it shows that 95% of young people that go through the program are not reoffending. There is a perception that Care First approaches are not holding young people accountable. And in fact, they are. In addition to the opportunity for them not to reoffend, it also saves the county money, $40,000 per young person, as opposed to the cost of arrest or court.
The Care First restorative program sounds good in theory, but can you give us a specific example where it worked?
Absolutely, and there are hundreds of those examples, but I will draw from one that has really touched my heart. There's a young man, Jazz, who came into contact with law enforcement at 17 years old. He had this pending legal action, this pending court proceeding, and he was referred to diversion. He went through the full diversion program, emerged successfully, and about a year ago, I met Jazz, and he came to give a testimonial about his experience in diversion. And I was so moved by the things that he had to say and how it changed his life. And it took him down a path that will lead towards thriving as opposed to the path that he was on. I recently saw Jazz just a few weeks ago speaking with one of the board of supervisors, as well as the chief of police. He was not the shy, scared individual that I met a year ago. He was a confident, strong young man. And recently, he has begun working for the same organization that helped him to overcome that major obstacle that could have changed the direction of his life. I'm absolutely inspired by the young people that go through our programs and show what their true potential can be.
The Care First restorative program also allows these potential at-risk youth to see you as a team, right? It's not like a us versus them. It's authority working with them to improve their lives, right? Absolutely.
One of the components of a restorative healing practice is circling, right? Where there is no hierarchy. Everyone is together in this very communal conversation, all trying to support a young person and help them support themselves in addressing their previous trauma and preventing future trauma.
You also have a credible messenger mentorship program at some of your probation facilities. So talk to us about who are these credible messengers and how does this program work?
Credible messengers are people who themselves have lived experience in the carceral system. Many have been incarcerated for what was considered a life sentence, 25 years or more. While they were incarcerated, they went through a healing journey. Most of those credible messengers started in the juvenile system and then progressed into the adult system. The credible messengers work with the young people in addressing the trauma that's taking place in the facilities in which they find themselves. They work with them on addressing the drivers of their own behavior to help them understand why they did the things that they did that landed them in that situation. to try to prevent that from happening again, connecting them to school opportunities, connecting them to other resources, again, to prevent them from falling back into the system. They are professionals in what they do. DYD provides ongoing training for those credible messengers, both around healing practices as well as the policies and procedures.
Describe how the youth justice probation system worked in the past and how it's working now moving forward.
Probation's primary responsibility is to carry out the orders of the court, right? A lot of it is around custody and supervision and maintaining safety within the facility. Lost in that mix sometimes is the needs of the young people that they serve. DYD is here to fill in that gap, right? To really address the holistic needs of the young person while in custody, to look at what they need to develop as young people, access to learning about different careers, educational opportunities, addressing the trauma that led them to that place in the first place, and making sure that they don't recreate that cycle of trauma once released.
There's been a lot of backlash and a lot of outrage by LA residents because they've seen retail theft gangs, street takeovers, often youth-led, and the perception, right, or opinion is that these youth are not getting punished at all or enough. Talk to us about how would you respond to people that are saying, why aren't these youth getting punished?
As a father, as a resident of South LA, I witnessed firsthand many of the things that you mentioned, the street takeovers and some of the retail theft. I want my family to be safe. We need to take those things seriously. I think where things change in the perception of the Department of Youth Development is what accountability is, right? Mm-hmm. Accountability is not locking kids up in cages and throwing away the key. What it is working through the trauma and the drivers that led them to do the thing that they were engaged in. If we look at it in the ways of the old heavy-handed approaches, young people are not going to leave those facilities any more prepared to thrive in community than they were when they went into the facility. So in fact, it creates less public safety by locking kids up and throwing away the key. One of the things I say all the time is that youth development is public safety. Preparing young people for the future, addressing the past, is what's going to keep us safe in the long run.
You did mention that increased punitive measures disproportionately affect Black youth, Indigenous youth, youth of color, and that is actually confirmed by the data from the Vera Institute of Justice. So why are these communities more disproportionately affected by these punitive measures?
The base reason is structural racism, mm-hmm. poverty, generational trauma, generational under-resources. In many of these communities, we know that Black and brown communities are over-policed. We certainly recognize that Black and brown youth are stopped at disproportionate rates. Those are things that the Department of Youth Development is trying to address through our community partnerships, as well as looking at legislation that may offer opportunities for every young person to receive diversion, the opportunity to heal and avoid that lifetime trauma that arrest and court can cause.
Let's switch gears and talk about your personal history, because we know that you were involved in the foster care system, right? Talk to us about how that experience shapes how you see the job that you are tasked to do now.
My story is not unique. I wasn't born into the best environment. For about the first 2 years of my life, I was in the foster care system, subsequently single parenthood. Fortunately, what I had was a group of adults who put their arms around me and tried to give me opportunities to succeed. Everything from coaches, teachers, mentors, everything through young adulthood into high school, opportunities to help me get into college. Once in college, programs to keep me from leaving college, opportunities to experience different careers and have internships. My goal was to give back in the way that I received as a young person. My place in the county and my opportunity to serve the nearly 2 million young people of LA County is a testament to the fact that with the right level of support, a young person's future is wide open. It's incumbent on us, though, to make sure that we give those young people those experiences and opportunities to reach their full and magnificent potential.
Well, you were definitely a good student. As a graduate student with honors, you went on to have a successful corporate career. But then you had an incident, a wake-up call that changed everything and brought you to where you are now. So talk to us about that wake-up call.
There was a Monday night and I was carjacked at gunpoint.
By two youth, correct?
Two young people. Turned out there was a 15 and a 16-year-old. And I could tell by the look in their eyes that they were more afraid than I was in that moment. I made it out of that situation relatively unhurt. By the time they were caught, unfortunately, they had shot someone. And I knew that the likelihood of their long-term success was so diminished by that incident. An incident that only yielded $5 that was in my wallet, and for a young person to be facing the uphill battle that they were going to face because of that incident absolutely broke my heart. I quit my job that Friday and started working with young people that very next Monday, working again after school programs, youth serving programs. I know that what I do matters, and the importance of that gets me motivated every day to keep doing what we're doing.
If there's an at-risk youth watching us now, what message do you want to tell them?
First of all, don't give up. You can be whoever and wherever you want to be tomorrow if you just persist. Certainly would ask them to reach out to the department via email or reaching out to one of our youth development networks, which are available on our website, to start the process of connecting.
How do you see youth in LA County 10 or 20 years from now, and how do we get there?
We don't want to see any young person in a cage. We certainly want to make sure that young people with complex needs are cared for, but in a way, again, that focuses on their long-term development.
Thank you so much for being here.
Excited to be here.